Welcome to This Is All Your Life. That's fantastic. Meaning it's all your fucking life. Who gives a shit? No big deal. Overcoming the bullshit to open your heart and mind with Janice Corsano and Holly Corsano. Hi, Al.
Hi.
OMG on the OMG on the energy of the full moon eclipse today.
I know.
Today's the July 27th full moon lunar eclipse that I think starts. We're here. It starts this afternoon, but I'm not actually sure. We can't see it from America. I think you can see it in some places in Europe, and it's going to be the longest eclipse time-wise that's happened in, I think they said like 150 years. But the energy of it, ooh, baby.
Mm-hmm. I know.
All week, and then we went into Mercury retrograde yesterday, which has been, you could already feel it starting before that. It's like an amazing shit show of calamity. Who the fuck knows what's going to happen any other minute? And it's exhausting and tiring and cranky and have no patience, and then have patience, and then be open and loving and kind, and then be I'm going to kill you all. Then be it's like an extreme set of. It's like an extreme set of wow, well, no, okay, no, now I'm going to kill you. No, I love you. No, I'm going to kill you. No, I hate you. Now the eclipse energy, like what eclipses do is, and this eclipse is like very important as far as it's opening portals for us to rise to the higher dimension.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like these last, like we had one, the new moon one a couple weeks ago, and now we have the full moon one, and then we'll have another one in 2 weeks from now, another one. So these eclipses are actually helping open portals for us to move to the higher dimensions and bring in a lot of change. And no, not necessarily do we want the change. Meaning eclipses eclipse things out of your life. Full moons are endings. And basically, that scares people, but it shouldn't, because we're talking about things that no longer serve us.
Right.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, the thing about stuff that no longer serves us is these belief systems, is these ways we're looking at the world, the perspective that we have. And hopefully it starts giving us a new perspective on doing things differently that's going to be more helpful for us. So what have you been feeling? And boy, the headaches and the ascension symptoms and the congestion, and my ears are all clogged, and my eyes are burning, and
I've been getting a lot of headaches, like way more than.
Yeah, me too.
normal.
I haven't been getting headaches like that. And then all of a sudden I was like, every other day I got a headache. Or every day at some point I have some kind of a headache.
Yeah.
And the tired?
Very tired. Yeah, very tired. Like my head feels like I have like a film over it. Like it's like I'm very cloudy.
How are you seeing? Can you see?
No, I don't see well.
Yeah. No, it's funny because my client that I had last night was saying that. She's like, I can't see anything. I'm like, me neither, so it's fine. Like,
yeah.
But I hear it from a lot of people. They're like, I don't know, I'm like, no, that's not. It's
Like
it's part of the.
It is doing, like, the edges of things kind of don't feel as like clear as normal, although my prescription is up to date, so I do know that is not my actual eyeballs.
Well, that's good. So that's good news. So you know that there's something else going on, but you could feel it. There's something else going on. The energy is so strange. I mean, I couldn't sleep last night because there was something in the house that kept scaring the dog, and somebody had come over that was having a little bit of an issue with something, and had said that a entity or something attacked them when they were sleeping the other night and was strangling them. So I was already late from doing all the work that I was doing with clients, and then by the time I was done with that, then had to handle the next thing, and then the next thing I knew it was 3:30 or 3 o'clock or 2:30, whatever time it was, and I'm smudging and
Right.
And I'm like, okay, and talking to Wallace, it's okay, come on, it's okay, it's time to go to bed now. He's like, no effing way. He's like, you're effing mind. I'm not going anywhere near there. And I'm like, Wallace, I took him outside, like just making sure that, and then there was something going on. So I went through the whole house and did, a whole, like removal of anything. And I could feel it, but I was so tired. I'm like, I can't deal with you right now. But I had to, because there was no other choice. And Wallace would not leave me alone. So it wasn't a thing that it was more of a thing where...
He wasn't letting you not do it.
It was a thing like, maybe if I didn't do it then, that it would have like kind of stayed or snuck in a way that, would have melted and made the energy more weird today.
Right. That's very true.
But he would not. It wasn't a thing. Like every single time I'd go back to go to sleep, he would come in and just start whimpering. And he would not go downstairs, and he would not go in his bed. And every time he'd go in the kitchen, he would, like, there was something there, and he would be, like you could tell he was apprehension. Like, the apprehension was very big. So, it was an interesting evening, to say the least. And it went from, what was so interesting was the energy that we were feeling was the portal, like the things that were opening, like this, being able to cross over into the higher dimension. Like, we're on a brink of that, and we're feeling both sides. And then it was like being crossed over, and you felt like the joy and happiness of it, and the fifth dimension, like creation, and how things can be, so much better in a lot of ways, and how we're coming from the wrong place in these old programs that are playing, and that you can see when you come from your heart space. Like, we did a lot of channeling last night. It was actually really good. And then it went from that to back to the like 3D lower, trying to keep you in the lower energy, to this, lower energy entity. It was in, like, when I tell you, like, it went all over like the eclipse and the energy's been. I experienced it in literally a 12-hour period. And all week you were talking about yesterday, the energy felt really sad to you.
Yeah, I felt sad, so sad.
Yeah, I would just cry. Like, the day before, I had to try to, like, in between clients and stuff, I had to go to the grocery store, and I couldn't even, I'm like, I'm going to cry in the grocery store. I had to try to, like, I couldn't move. Like, the feeling of having to, like, just bring the energy through me, because I filter a lot of energy and take on, like, so much of it has to go through me. It was intense. And it's been going on for a while, like months now, but this last week it's been extra.
Yep.
And you don't normally feel it that way.
Say what?
You don't normally feel it that way.
The sadness?
No, you usually feel anger. You'll usually get impatient or angry, or...
I don't usually get any other emotion than the one that I'm in.
No, you'll get impatient or frustrated. Like, you tend to
I'll get more frustrated with like productivity level.
Right. Like, you'll get frustrated that things are taking too long, or it's not done, or,
Right.
But you don't, like, yours is not a sadness one normally.
No.
Mine is the sadness one. Like, I'll feel the sadness. You tend to have a block up on the whole. So it's like, wow, if it, but that's part of what it's trying to do. It's trying to, like, break through and open up our heart space. That's actually the chakra that it's trying to work with, is our heart chakra. Because if we can't come from there, then how are you going to go to a higher place? Because it's about unconditional love.
Right. Well, also, too, my hip has been, like, screaming.
Well, what's it screaming and telling you? Because if it's screaming, it should be loud enough for you to hear now.
I don't know. It's starting to burn now, though. It's burning.
Okay. Did you talk to it yet? No. Like, didn't we have this conversation? You should do a little meditation and talk to it and ask it what's it doing, what it needs. Didn't we have that conversation?
I don't remember that.
Yes, we did, more than one time. Because remember I said to you, like, if we, like, if something's bothering us, hurting us wise, like, on our body, a lot of time if you do, like, a little meditation, ask it why it's bothering you, then it'll give you some insight into it.
Oh, I see.
And we talked about it with your shoulder, we talked about it with your hip, we talked about it, and I'm sure, we've talked about it many times, but it would be like in passing, or I'd say to you, did you do that? And you would say, no.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, you're all the things that we really need to be doing right now, though, is really go easy on yourself. Really.
My tummy's making all sounds now.
Did you have breakfast?
I did. It's talking. It wants to be part of the podcast. It has its input.
Well, good. What's it got to say? Because apparently your hip's saying something. It's
right.
screaming. I'm not sure if we could hear that. But what I'm asking you is, like, what does it feel like it's trying to tell you? Because I know my back's been extra.
Same.
You know, it's been extra painful. And, you know, the not being able to see vision-wise has been...
Yeah, that
and being very congested and losing my voice.
Yeah, I feel like I was in a cloud when I was working on my clients the other day. I felt like I wasn't, like, I was just, like, in like, a bubble, kind of. So I was there and talking to them and, like, working on them and able to, like, do my task, but I felt like I wasn't able to feel them like I normally do. Like, I felt like I was in, like, a buffer.
Right, like there was something else in between.
Yeah.
Now, did you protect yourself? Did you put up a buffer because you were feeling so much? What were you doing?
I don't know. I mean, I did ask. I was, like, grounding myself in, like, earlier in the day, not anywhere near this. Like, these people were at, like, 7 p.m. or something. And I was, but when did I say I was feeling sad? Early in the morning? Like,
earlier. Well, it wasn't that early, but it was like maybe 10. Yeah.
Yeah, so whenever that was.
How long did it last? Did it last all day?
I didn't feel it. Well, the cloudy, like, thing that I was just talking about, that has been in and out. Like, that comes in and out. Like, I'm feeling it a little bit right now, where I kind of feel, like, it affects the vision, where it doesn't look as three-dimensional as it would be. Kind of, it looks a little more flat.
Yeah, you're kind of fuzzy.
Yeah.
If I'm looking at you, you're fuzzy.
Yeah, it looks a little fuzzy. It almost kind of looks like if you're, like, clicking through, like, a TV channel and there's, like, just about to be dialed in and the color is, like, still slightly off. And it's still a little pixelated, and then it's, like, comes in. It's like the
you know when we talk about the Matrix and we're, like, in the Matrix? It's like the Matrix is breaking down. You could see that the, like, Matrix is... Yeah, bit. It's like, oop, glitch in the Matrix.
What I notice it a lot where...
well, maybe as the Matrix starts to, you know, like, have those glitches, that's part of the point, you know, like, to be able to have those glitches. So you go, oh, that's what's been going on the whole time? I've been in a little game simulation?
Right. And they'll also... I mostly see it where there's the strongest light and dark contrast. So, like, if there's a really strong light source hitting something against a shadow that's, like, if they're, like, right next to each other, that, like, very clear line that's normally created by that isn't as sharp.
How are you doing with, like, are you seeing other things? Are you having more dreams? Because there's a lot of things, like, they're trying to connect to us, and the higher, I mean, they, meaning angels, guides, universe, is trying to connect you to help awaken your higher self.
I was having a dream the other day.
But dreams are being, like, they're trying to show you a lot in the dreams.
My dreams have been really, really interesting lately, and I don't usually remember them or feel like... I wake up and I'm like, I had a dream and it kind of felt like this, but I don't remember, like, things from it. But I had a dream the other day where I was with a group of girls, almost like classroom style, and we were on, like, a field trip, but it was in a desert, which was interesting because normally water is a motion, right? So wouldn't desert be the opposite? Like, is that, like, what does that mean?
I don't know.
Yeah, we should look that up. So I'm wondering, like...
I don't know at the moment.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's the lack of for you.
Right. Could be. I know, I'm all deadpan.
Yeah. Maybe it's a lack of for you. But the point being is, like, we're having a lot of dreams, and you having that dream, what was the feeling of it is more of... It's like, we can interpret our own dreams. You don't necessarily have to look them up if you just go by what does it feel like it's trying to tell you. And there's, you know, elements of it that you can look up, but it's also, even if you looked it up, if it doesn't resonate with you, that's not what it was about. You know?
Right. That makes sense, yeah.
But what was the feeling? So you're in a classroom. What are you learning?
No, I wasn't in a classroom. It was a classroom setting, kind of. Like, the relationship to the people around me were...
Right. You said you were in a desert, but it was like a classroom setting. So what were you learning?
It was a field trip.
Right. So then if you're on a field trip, then you're learning something. What were you learning?
That I don't know. I don't remember. much of it. I just remember the feeling of the people that I was with were more like classroom type acquaintances, not like family or friends or, you know what I mean, like a group of people that I was like purposefully put, like it wasn't like a decision, it was more like a, we just happened to be like lumped together and we're all doing a thing together.
Well, any other interesting dreams you've been noticing? Because I don't tend to remember my dreams either.
Right.
And I wake up with them. I wake up with them and then I forget them.
I had another one where I was like, it was like, I think me, Nicholas, and James. Nicholas is my brother. We were walking through like a post-apocalyptic type junkyard situation with like big like heaps like of it kind of looked like big mountains of like debris everywhere, and it was like piled in like junkyard style, I suppose. And there was a rug that was rolled up, and it looked like in the shadow, it kind of looked like I saw like a little dog nose like in the shadow of it, and I like was like, oh, what is that? It's weird. I was like walking by, and then I noticed him. It kind of looks like Wallace, and I unrolled it, and he was dehydrated in the thing, like in the rug, rolled up like burrito style. So we took him out, and we brought him back to our little like hut thing that like was in that we had like made somehow, and we like brought him back there so he could like recuperate and get water. But it was the weirdest thing, and then we put him there and then left to continue on our journey that we were like doing.
Were you scavenging?
I don't know. We were like on a mission. It wasn't scavenging. It was definitely like on a mission to go somewhere.
Interesting. So, well, we are in an apocalyptic time. I can't even say the word now. I can't even speak. See, my anxious level is like my impatience level right now. When you're talking, I want to slug you.
Me? Why?
Because you're talking so slow.
Don't talk slow.
No, I'm talking fast. Like the energy vibration is very fast. So it feels like when I have no patience right now, and as you're talking, it's like you're talking like this. I'm like, oh my God, why is she talking so slow? No, not necessarily are you talking so slow.
It's like the sloth of the DMV and the, what is that movie? What is that cute movie with the fox and the bunny? They're like,
I don't know, but I know which one you're talking about. Yeah. I don't know the name of it, but I could see him.
And they laugh like, ha.
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 But it is. It's like, oh my God, why is she talking so slow like this? And I'm over here, like, my energy's going like 100 miles an hour. And I'm like, okay. And when I start channeling, my body is channeling. Like, I could tell there's like a lot of shit. And they have not let me channel, like, literally to the degree of the channeling. They won't let me say it out loud. It's like, we can't know, like, I can't say it yet. There's a lot of stuff that's in the process of changing, that's big changes, that they won't let me share yet for a couple reasons. One, because it, freaks people out. Some of the stuff is, very intense, and they've never let me share it. But they've always showed me all kinds of things that would be like when you were saying about that dream about, like the yard that you were in, like the apocalyptic, I can't even speak.
Apocalyptic.
Yeah. If I stop speaking so fast, I might be able to say it. That is part of, and then, the little bridge that we're going over, which, people refer to as the Rainbow Bridge. But this bridge...
Wait, I don't know this.
The bridge to go to the fifth dimension. Yes, you do know this. We've talked about it.
See, here's my belly again. The Rainbow Bridge. I don't know this.
No, I've heard people refer to it as the Rainbow Bridge, but it's not a term that I tend to use, but it's this... Oh, dang it. Jesus.
She's moving too fast, guys. We gotta save her from herself today. Something's happening.
Well, maybe I'll
Pitch
poof.
the moon.
Yeah, maybe I'll poof. Maybe that'll my vibration will get so fast and I'll just poof. Like I'm like, oh my God, like my whole body is vibrating, and then it keeps doing these things back and forth where I'll get the chills because of the energy running through me, and then I'll get freezing, and then I'll get really warm where I'm it's sweating to death in 5 seconds. It's like and I'm not having a hot flash. You know, like, it's not like that. It's not a feeling like that. It's a totally different feeling. It's like a cold.
It's not coming from the inside.
No.
Yeah.
It's coming from the inside of my body, but it's not.
It's not a personal summer.
No, it's not any of those things. But it's cold. Like, I'll get the chills. Like, normally when something resonates with you, like, you know, when you get the goosebumps, you know, like the what do we call those? The wave. You know,
yes,
it's like the wave.
By the way, an erector pili muscle is the muscle responsible for the little hair standing up on your arms.
Oh,
isn't that fun fact?
Fun
with
fact.
Holly and Janice.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
I don't even know what you just said, but honestly, I can't comprehend yet.
Oh, it's the muscle that's in your hair follicle.
Oh, I'm like, what did she say?
Yeah. Yay.
So, that's wonderful news, everyone. Now that you know that, thank you for the 411 on how and why our hair follicles stand up when you get the goosebumps, chills, and the wave, as I call it, because it waves. Like, it's like the wave. You know when you know something's true and you get that wave through your body of your hair standing up?
Yeah, it's like a little electricity feeling.
Well, that's what it keeps doing. And it was doing it yesterday, it was doing it last night, and then it was doing it this morning, and then when I was getting dressed, it was doing it again. I'm like, all right, it's really warm out today, like muggy warm.
Yes.
And I'm having a wave of freezing, and then it would be like then it would be like the normal muggy warm temperature. I'm like, no, it's not. It's cool in here. It's not. You know, the air conditioning's on, but it's not cold in here by any means. It's, you know, not where you would get chills. It's not a chills.
Right.
So as far as like the energy and the things like this bridge, and they always show me this bridge is like a 10. It's like the smallest bridge I've ever seen. It's like 10 foot long, and on one side is all the crazy third dimension and all the crazy what looks like the apocalypse happened, you know.
Yeah.
And then on the other side is the fifth dimension, which looks like this beautiful.
It's like serene.
Oh my God, it's serene, it's beautiful, and it's the place where, you know, like you're going and you're creating, and like there's so much beauty, and the colors look very different than the colors here.
Do you see my goosebump arms?
I see them.
Look at my whole forearm.
See, you're getting.
And they're all over my legs too. My body is doing like this crazy.
So now your body's doing exactly what I just said mine was.
Yep.
No.
I'm just sitting here.
Right. Back to the bridge. But do you see what I'm saying? Like, do you see how it's changing? Like, there's something that's happening that, if you're feeling all these different things, it's fine. It's, you know, it's part of what the thing, you know, what this eclipse is trying to help us with. It's helping us to push through portals to get out of, and they call it the Matrix because of, I would think, the movie, but I'm sure the movie got the name from the Matrix of, you know, somewhere else. They don't call it, for all intents purposes in here, right, meaning like the Matrix means that you're in a simulation, right? So a place where it's simulating of, so that you can go and, it's like so that you can go and learn, right? Because to me it's always like Earth School, right? So we're in a school, we come down to learn and grow, but we're here to learn about unconditional love, and the way that we do that is by the crazy shit that we're taught to do, and to realize that that's not actually the truth, and to start to love ourselves more and to love other people. And it's a whole, you know, there's a lot to it. It's not a simple, you know, because it's like somebody like hitting you in the forehead over and over with like, oh, hold on, you're doing it wrong all the time, and that feeling that nothing you do is right and that you're never good enough, and then people telling you that, and then you're supposed to be like, yes, and I love myself so much.
Right.
I'm really a good person. Like, it's always feels like people always feel like they're doing something wrong. But we've been taught to follow certain rules that don't work for us and not allowed to be yourself. Like, no, meaning, I don't mean you're not allowed. You're allowed, but we don't feel like it's okay.
Right.
You know, like there's a feeling. So back to this little bridge. So anyway, on one side you see this, you know, like destruction, and on the other side you see this beauty. So you're standing on the bridge, and I'm always standing on the side where I have to help the people over. So I'm like, can I stand on the other side when they already get over? And nope, I have to stand on this side. I'm like, this side is the crappy side right now. I want to stand on the other side. The other side is what, when you get over here, it's really nice. They're like, no, you got. I'm like, okay. So there's a lot of stuff that I mean, I've mentioned over the years, but now we're in them. And it's a good thing, like I've said before, that they've not ever given me the feeling of it. Because if they did, I would have been, I quit, I'm out. I will not be involved in this whole thing. I must have made a mistake when I said I would do this. It might not have mentioned the feeling then either. And being an empath, like, what kind of gifts are these? What are you thinking? Now, I'm sure that there's a good reason for them, but there are days when I'm like, you gotta be joking. So for everyone, but all of our feelings are getting more heightened. And what we're trying to do, literally, is to learn how to have unconditional love for ourselves and others, which we are not unconditional loving beings at the moment. I mean, we are spiritually, but not in a 3D sense and not while we're in this body. We conditionally love. So as we try to, connect more to spirit, and as we rise through the dimensions, that you will be closer to your spiritual self and that spiritual being, which is part of the awakening that we're trying to have and go through these portals, and uncover all these programs that have been keeping us stuck believing the same old thing and repeating the same stuff over and over so that you can see it a little bit clearer. So it's some interesting and intense and and so you don't want to change that, we're going to throw you off the cliff. Now, whenever I do that exercise where I have people like they're holding onto the cliff, you know what I'm talking about, the exercise where you're holding onto the cliff?
I do, but what, share.
So everyone, is like, I can't take anything, like, we're so overwhelmed from all the shit from our past, so we're moving forward and we're like going, okay, well, I don't want to go back there, I want to go forward, I want to do better things. So they're doing that, and all of a sudden things get like really intense, because as you're making changes, they feel scary too, and as you're, things are all changing, you're like, no, I don't want that either. So you kind of get to this edge of this cliff, and it's like, okay, I'm like being pushed off, like for the new things, right? I'm being pushed off, and they're holding on for dear life and trying to go back to the old because it's something that they know. And it's like, well, okay, I'll take the old. I don't care. I'll take that. At least I know it. At least I feel safe there. And it's like, nope, they won't let you go back. And they also are pushing you. And I'm like, no, just let go.
Yeah.
So in the exercise that we do, I'm like, no, just let go. Now, what happens 99% of the time when they let go is that they float. Like, and this is a major cliff. Like, like it's 100 feet. This
is in your mind's eye, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not like you're holding onto a cliff. It's, in your imagination. So they're holding onto this cliff, and then they let go. The other ones, when they do that, right, the other ones that let go, that they fall to the 100 feet and break into a million pieces. And then
who does that?
Some people do. When they do that, right, some people do. That's what I'm saying.
They gotta go.
No, I'm going to tell you what happens. No, they don't have to try again, because what happens to them is that their body just comes right back together, and they're perfectly fine.
Yeah.
So they're like, oh.
It's Looney Tunes.
Right. Their body just goes perfectly back together.
That's a perfect example of everyone here. We're just a bunch of Looney Tunes.
No kidding. That's why we talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
It's like the Roadrunner, right? The Roadrunner seems perfectly fine. Wile E. Coyote, on the other hand. You know what I mean? Like, the Roadrunner seems like it is having a perfectly fine life.
Right. Wait, this is funny. So I saw this really great meme that was Wile E. Coyote saying that, like, it says, cash, get shit done, and it's Sonic the Hedgehog handing Wile E. Coyote the Roadrunner. It's very funny. I was like, oh my god.
Well, the meme that I have up on my Instagram, Mylana_inspired, is with Wile E. Coyote, and you know how he's going off the cliff, and it says something like your spiritual awakening may look more like this, where you see him running, and he's like, when he's gonna, he realizes that his ass is in the middle of the air.
Yeah.
Because people tend to think what's in a spiritual awakening is like this. It's
like
more
an
like
aha moment.
Yeah, it's like this amazing thing that happens to you, and you're like, oh, flowers, daisies, and basically it's like you going through hell to
flowers
get to the other side.
Flowers and daisies are you part of your awakening dream?
Well, meaning flowers and daisies and everything is like, oh, now it's all peaceful and nice and calm and, life is so much easier. And, well, yeah, that's part of some of it when you understand. But we're always working through, and we're in a test time now. So
now we know, though, that her happy place is in flowers.
I do like flowers. That's one of my happy places.
Mm-hmm.
But my point being, in water, I do happen to like the ocean, sand. So I want flowers and sand and some ocean and, so a bunch of different things. Pina colada, too. Those are nice. I don't even drink, but I like pina coladas.
Pina colada.
I do. I tend to drink virgin pina coladas.
That's true.
But the point being is that people tend to think, like, when you have this awakening, but you have more clarity. You feel better because you understand more. So when you start to understand, and that's what this eclipse is trying to help us with. So if we need to be doing more meditation, we need to be being more connected.
I've been feeling that lately, where I need to sit and like ground and be my own self and like feel what I feel like, because it's hard to connect. Like it's hard to even like go be in the world and do what you're doing if you're not set up already to go enter.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like the other day when I was saying like going to the grocery store and you were saying the way you felt, it's like, I don't think I can go out in the world like this. Like,
no,
I can't go out in the world like this, but I had to go to the store, so I was like, I had to do everything I could to actually do that, to then get back to do clients. But it was more like this feeling of, we need to actually find ourselves in here, connect, and get the downloads, because we're getting downloads, which are going to be helpful in being able to open you up to let go of, and when we talk about, like, eclipses, it's eclipsing out, and hopefully it's eclipsing out all those programs that are keeping us stuck and not being able to see the perspective that would be more helpful to us. Whatever that one is, because we need to have a range of things that we can see. If we just see, like, things are black and white, then, and you put black and white together, you get gray, and to me everything's more in the gray field.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's always a different perspective on it, and it's okay. There's no right or wrong for most things, and there's, for most things we could all agree that the perspective on it and how you take it, it's not what happens, it's what you do with what happens, and what you see it. Because I always think it as, okay, whatever's happening, what's it there to show me, what's it there to teach me, what's it there to help me with. Like, instead of it's like I'm the victim of, it's like, no, what's it there to show me, what's it there to help me with, what's there to teach me. And it feels like a better way to, because I know that God in the universe is always trying to help me in some way, always trying to help me to grow, always trying to do something that's better for me and for what I do, and help me on my path and my purpose. So I always think of it that way, regardless of how it is.
Right.
What about you? How do you see it? Because you tend to think of it more the same way.
Yeah, I do like highest and greatest good.
Right.
Just that's what I put out there all the time. Like at first I'll be like, oh, okay, I don't know if I necessarily like what I'm learning right now, but highest and greatest good. So, yes, go with that. Just keep doing it.
Right, because we want whatever, we're doing is for our highest and greatest good, and we don't know what that is.
Right.
From our vantage point, it's like, well, what seems like our highest and greatest good would be to get the job that you wanted in New York, and what may actually be for your highest and greatest good may not be to get that job. It may be to miss that job so you can get this other job that's going to be a better job, but that doesn't seem like you can't see it yet.
Right. I usually kind of do like a hands-off approach where I'm like, you think the thing that I would like, and then I let it go.
Well, we know the best way for creation is to put out, what you're trying to create, and then get out the way so that the universe could actually bring it to you, and that you didn't tell the universe. Because a lot of times if we say exactly, like, we're kind of limiting ourselves, right? So if you said, well, it looks like this, well, yeah, it can look like that, but then you want to also put, and whatever's in my highest and greatest good and the best for me, or because there's something that could be better, and you just basically said, well, I would like a one chocolate instead of I could have a whole bag of chocolate. You know, maybe there's, other things that would have came if you just were more open to...
Yeah, if you don't limit the possibility.
Right. And the fact that we think that we actually can create anything to begin with is... But we're creating crap all the time, so I don't know how we miss that. All you got to do, like that exercise, when I have people do it, they're like, the one where you write down your thoughts and, so whether it be work or whatever, it's like, is that what you're living? And you're like, oh shit, yeah. I'm like, well, we need to stop thinking like that.
Right.
We need to stop, but it's also the feeling. So you take the thought and the feeling. Because law of attraction, sounds very simple, but it can be hard to do. If you pay attention to how you're doing it every day, because you are doing it, you're doing it with crappy shit most of the time. So now, hopefully, with these eclipses happening, that we're going to get a little bit closer to being able to do it in more of a intention of knowing how we're doing it. Like that's why paying attention to those thoughts and feelings are really important. And be careful what the hell you're thinking and putting out now, because you're going to create really fast. And you're not talking. You're shaking your head.
I was just nodding my head because I was like thinking about...
I'm like,
I was thinking about...
You're on a mic that they can't see you.
No, because you can't yet. You can't hear what I'm thinking yet.
You can't.
No, what I was thinking about was...
And how much of that has been going on?
A lot.
Yeah.
A lot, yeah. No, I was thinking about how I get scared to think about things because I don't want to accidentally...
Right, fuck it up.
Yeah.
Put something out there.
Yeah.
But the thing is that and people tell me that all the time, and I said, like, no, you're putting, it's being aware of, and you have the ability to cancel, and not everything that you put out, because Lord knows if everything you put out, we'd be way more in crap. So we put lots of good things out too.
Right, I'd have like no legs.
Like, do you know what I'm saying?
And
like
my
we
hip
would be
somewhere far away from me.
It would have walked off by itself already. Because you keep saying that it's trying to disconnect from your body. So stop saying that, because then they're going to have to disconnect it from your body, which is probably not a good idea.
No, I don't want that.
But, you know what I'm saying? Like, those types of things. Like, but if you're aware of what you're saying, then if you put 10% more of something that you're trying to create and cancel 10% of it, then you're creating more of that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the part. It's like, if you pay attention to it, you get a little bit afraid of what you put out there, because you're like, oh shit, but if you pay attention, be like, you should have been afraid of the shit you've been saying, because look at what you're doing.
Right.
It's like, no, stop being afraid of being aware, because when you get afraid of being aware, then you're like, okay, I can't think anything. No, you can think, you're aware, okay, there's no stopping us thinking. That's not going to happen.
Right.
Sadly. Lord, and we go down some rabbit holes, boy.
Yep.
Damn.
But yeah, that's why I wasn't talking, because I was like in the rabbit hole of, but what am I thinking though? I'm like potentially really screwing things up because I'm thinking all these things that I'm now aware of. You know what I mean? And so you like start overthinking, and then you're like, well, I just did nothing for the past 5 minutes. I just sat and thought about nothing.
Right, when we're trying to record and no one could hear you, and I'm like, I'm asking you a question, and you're off in la-la over there.
It wasn't like, la-la.
Well, yeah, you were la-la thinking, and I'm like, and you're shaking your head, and I'm like, they can't hear you shake your head. Although, maybe they could, but I don't think so. But that's actually, like, that thing that you just did feels very, like, if you talk to me, I'll do that.
Right, yeah.
Like, you've done it to me a few times, and I'll be sitting there and I can't talk. Like, I'll talk to you. Like, I can't have a conversation with you. I'll be able to say, I could nod my head.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you'll say, I have to do this, uh-huh.
Yep.
Because I'm wherever I am.
In the thought also,
right.
Yeah.
And...
yeah, you can't, like, distract from what you're doing.
Right. There's a lot of thoughts that are, and because you're hearing so much and feeling so much, it's hard to get out of.
Well, so wait, how do we, I guess, find clarity?
Okay, now you're asking for a little too much. We're going through a major...
I know, but how do you prepare yourself to be like more of like a filtration system, so you can let other people's things like go through you and you can
Well,
find your own.
But that's part of being protected and understanding that we pick up other people's energy so that you can filter it, which is running the energy through you, making sure that you're grounded, doing the protection exercises and doing the ones that we talked about before. Like, remember when we create the bubbles, and it's like if these thoughts and, the bubble that we create that you put next to your head. It's like, any thoughts that do not belong to me or no longer serve me go into that, into that iridescent ball. And then that ball goes, like the universe takes it away, you put it into the ground to be recycled, and you create another ball that is in your solar plexus area. Any feelings that don't belong to me or no longer serve me go into that ball. And you'd be surprised at how big these things get, because there are so many that, do not serve us or do not belong to us. But just that simple little saying that they gave me years and years ago, that this isn't mine, if this is mine, it could stay. If it's not, go away.
Right.
Just...
I say that often.
Right. And you could feel the shift in it, because there is an immediate thing that happens. And, and you can tell, it's like, oh, that wasn't mine. Oh, well, thank God. Now, you may feel it come back, but all you need is that little thing to know it's not yours.
Right.
Because 50% is not ours, but when you have 50% more, it feels like you can't handle it. If you know that 50% isn't yours, it's like, oh, okay. I'm kind of getting through everyone else's too, but if I take 50% off, I'd be able to do this better. Okay, let me take off the other 50 that's not actually helping me.
Right.
And, like attracts like.
Right.
So,
you know what my brain just showed me when you were saying that, when you were talking about 50% off? There's how if you're buying something in a store and there's all the different middlemen, and there's all the different, so people want to jump in on it. So it's like all the emotions and all from the other people tacking on their input. You know what I mean? So then reduce it 50% means it's on sale. So you're removing all of the other people's input that they emotionally put on you. So you're decreasing you're coming back to the original product that it was manufactured at, which is you. It's just my brain showed to me this funny clothing manufacturing way.
So basically they showed you when we talk about
from production to on the rack and all the different people that it goes through, and each money increases the, you know what I mean? Meaning
each person it goes through, each hand.
Each hand it goes through has to make money on it, so that way.
No, what I'm saying is they showed you a metaphor.
Yes.
Right.
So they showed me a metaphor. So emotionally, all the different people that you're interacting with, you're building up throughout the whole day with all these different people.
Adds money.
And it's adding emotional
right, which is money in the
metaphor.
Metaphor.
Yeah. So
if you take those out, then you start with the original product.
Right.
And there's less hands in that.
Right.
And less emotion from outside in it.
Right.
And it's like, oh, probably better.
Right.
Probably easier that way. It felt lighter too.
Yeah, it was lighter. It's a funny metaphor that my brain just did.
Well, I think it's a good one. I think it kind of, gives people an idea. So when you're saying okay, so what do we do to get more clarity? First, meditation, grounding. We know the grounding exercise, just roots. I can't even speak. I swear to God, I can't speak today. My speaking skills went out the window. Roots into the ground. Don't do them right into the top of the earth. Sometimes people get that confused. It's deep into the earth. There's a very healing green layer in there, and you could feel it, but it's very deep in the earth. The top of the earth is going through major changes like we are. You don't want to ground into that.
Right, lots of turmoil.
Yeah. It's oh yeah.
Well, you can tell by all the weather.
Yeah. The weather is a nice way to say how we're feeling. It's all over the map. Mm-hmm. Are affecting the weather. You could see. It's who affects who. I think we affect the weather just by looking at the way the weather is.
Right.
And the way that we're feeling. It's wow, we are really affecting each other. And you can't, it's all alive, It's with the planets doing everything they're doing, people will say stuff well, what do the planets have to do? I'm if they're all alive and they keep telling me to pay attention to them because they're the things that are helping to push. It's we're in this evolution, right? We're in this shift that is, trying to bring us to a higher place, into a higher dimension, so that we see things and understand things totally different.
Mm-hmm.
And to do that, we do all of this work, and we get pushed along the way, and we get lots of help, because we didn't come to do this ourselves. We have a lot of help from the whole universe to do this. And then we have people, lower energies that don't want this to happen. So there's an opposing,
But, you know what, actually, how I was talking about that clouded energy that comes in and makes you feel pixelated? I also just got this feeling that that is your, like, the way you see the world through your old perception is becoming pixelated.
That I would agree.
That's what's happening. That's like, that just popped into my head right now, where it's like,
Good channeling, Hal.
Yeah. So because when I come into clarity, I'm like realizing this, when I come into clarity visually, is when I feel more open in my heart chakra, and I can physically see better. And then when I'm in my head and like I catch myself thinking and worrying and, you know, kind of like looping, is when I kind of go back and retreat back, like, inward, and kind of do this weird like pixelate, and I'm like kind of, it makes it fuzzy and hard, and it just was like a poof. Nope, that's like very intentionally, like, they're very different feelings that are happening with the sight.
Which is important to start to realize. That's why awareness is, you know, when we say 90%. So now that you're aware of that and you're helping other people be aware of that, which one do you need to be in? The heart space.
Well, you need to be in the heart space, but I feel like they're both important.
No, the other one, because to get out of, you have to recognize. You have to recognize that you're in it, and you have to see what programs you've been learning in there. So when you go to the clarity spot, it's like, oh, this makes more sense now, why this is the thing that I'm able to see and experience.
I am very happy that that just poofed in there.
See? That's what this is for. Helping to, you know, like, for the downloads, for to be able to understand more.
Right. That is actually very helpful, because now I feel like I can catch myself when I'm not coming from the heart space.
Right, because the heart space is like our strongest space. That's where we need to come from. We're not saying we're not using our head. You know, our heart has way more intelligence than our head does, in all actuality, you know. And it's the strongest. It's the strongest creator.
Right, yeah, I was just going to say, because the heart is like, you know, the unconditional love energy, which means it would be tapped into everything, whereas your head is just like some weird wire noodles that you just made up. And you know what I mean? Like, you created that weird pasta salad in there.
But it is attached to, but it is attached to your heart if you're using it together.
I know.
But if you just have your heart closed, which is what we ran into last night with my client, her heart had, like, when we were doing healing on her heart had chains and stuff, so she was just in her head, which would basically bring up all your fears, and just make you go around. She was like going around in a loop, like in a. She's like, I'm in a maze that I can't get out of. I'm like, right.
Yeah, like, no, you don't take the pasta salad that's like on your head, like maybe like, your phone is beeping through your wrist.
Yes.
Yeah, like your hair needs to represent, like, your mental hair needs to like represent like your brain inside, instead of it looking like 2000 like Justin Timberlake like pasta. You need to have like a long mane of flowing like rainbow hair, so that way you can go over the bridge.
Yes.
I don't know why that's just being silly now. It's just silly.
But that's kind of more fun. Like, we want to be more fun. So silly is actually good, because like people taking everything so seriously isn't getting us there either.
Right.
This whole, like, I don't know what people call like some of the work. I always, whenever they meet, they're like, oh, I thought you would be more woo woo. I don't even know what that means, you know. But they think that you'll be like some kind of a, you know, like off in space somewhere, you know, like
right,
fairy dust, and I'm like, what the hell? Like, no, I'm a being on the planet. Yeah. And it doesn't, I don't know what that woo-woo shit is, but whatever. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. If that's how people do it, that's fine. But, and there's no judgment. But it's the idea that you'd be a certain way, or that because you believe a certain thing, that you act a certain way. But when we talk about what's fun, lighter, you learn better. Like, when you learn something, when it's fun to learn, when it's easier when it's fun. And this is like, when we are having fun, like, we're so sick of, and I am number one sick of, learning in pain now, thank you.
Yeah.
We apparently do this thing that it only gets our attention when it really fucking hurts. When we're happy and joyful, we actually don't pay attention. Like, we're happy and joyful. We're not paying attention to things it's trying to teach us. We're like, nope.
Because you're more in the moment.
Yeah, which is how you're supposed to be, more in the moment. But apparently you don't learn shit yet there. Now the whole point would be, what if you learn shit in the moment, in the joyful energy? So let's all work on that. Let's get it while we're in the joyful moments, because the fact that we have to go to pain and suffering, which needs to effing go now, that's a thing that we created so that we can go, here's right, here's wrong, and it's a way to say, like, this is the wrong path. If that, it would be like putting your hand on the stove and going, well, I should keep my hand here. No, that fucking hurts. You take your hand off and it stops hurting. So maybe that's the wrong path, right?
Right. Maybe don't keep your hand on the stove.
But that doesn't mean you shouldn't have put your hand on the stove.
Right.
Because otherwise you wouldn't have learned that if you didn't do it. For whatever reason you needed to learn that.
What would be the joy version of that, though?
The joy version would be
that we would like to go to.
The joy version would be, I don't know, think of something else. So what if you put your hand on the stove for however, and it didn't really hurt that much, and you took it off, you went, oh, that's however, however, like it was silly, or maybe somebody, like, there's all different ways. Like, I don't know the joy version of that at the moment, because I can't think 2 plus 2.
Because we're not there yet.
No, because I can't think 2 plus 2 at the moment. Like, I'm really like in fogland getting downloads or whatever.
Right.
And the reason that we're even doing a podcast today is because, part of it has to do with the eclipse energy and how intense it is, and just, letting people know. And I may put up, part of the podcast up today, or I may wait till tomorrow, whatever, when I have a little bit of time. But it was because of, like, just saying how we were feeling. And there's just so many, and I'll have to do it, like, when we get together for the next podcast, and you're going to be away for a little while, so we wanted to do it so that we don't miss, because there's just so much going on that we don't want to miss them, and it's really important.
And also, too, I'm noticing, because emotions are so flip-floppy and everything's kind of so big, it's like turbulent almost. Like
it's very turbulent.
Yeah, every time we sit down, we're very different versions of ourselves. So it's nice to podcast during a day that is so, like,
turbulent.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could feel the turbulence.
Yeah.
So for people in general, just all of this change, go easy on yourself. Number one, like, the whole point is, if you love somebody, how do you treat them? And then look at how you do that, and then turn it around and say, am I treating myself that way? Just because we don't know how to love ourselves, so that's the easiest way for me. It's like, oh, hold on, what do I do when I love somebody? What do I do? Well, I go out of my way for them, I understand, I listen, I try to take care of them if there's something that I could do. Do I do that for me? No.
No. Nope, me either.
Nope.
I've been working on self-care for...
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, just for, in general, just in being a little more easy on my body and not being mad at it that it can't do certain things because of the injuries.
Right, which is important.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't take care of yourself, don't worry, no one else will.
Right. Yeah, and it's like, why would I be mad at a different person if they couldn't do something because they're hurt? Right. Like, why am I mad at myself? Like, I'm annoyed that I don't have the ability to do certain things right now, but
that doesn't mean that would stay that way. Maybe if you're a little easier on yourself and take care of yourself, then those things can
come back.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the difference. It's like, you're mad at it for not doing it, and then you're pushing it to the point. So that's where it's like, so if you take care of yourself like you would take care of somebody else, so all you got to do to give yourself, like, people go, how do I love myself? I'm like, well, how about if we start with, we don't know how, but how do we love somebody else? And then do that to yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The other thing I've been doing, too, is when I see new gray hairs come in, I don't give them any energy. I just say, oh, there you are.
Good, then they'll go away.
Well, whether they're there or not, I don't care if they're there or not.
No, meaning, like, the idea that you don't give it energy is, there's no reason to.
Right, yeah, I'm not like, oh, God, there's a gray hair, it has to go. Like, why?
Yeah, who cares?
Who cares? Whatever. I have hair on my head, cool. Even if I didn't have hair on my head, cool. Right. Like...
But that's also learning to accept yourself.
Yes, right, yeah, exactly. That's
part of these things.
That's what I'm trying to say about the self-love, is, like, not judging myself based on some weird belief I've put in my head.
But that's what part of this is we're talking about, right? Yeah. So being able to change those perceptions where we were very stuck on, no, this is the way we should look, or this is how it should be, instead of being like, and no.
Right.
It's good just the way it is.
All is good however it is.
Right.
It's great.
And wow, look at the perception. I could see it differently, and I'm actually able to start to accept that just the way it is. And you know what? I like that better. Like that I can accept that and it feels good. So those are the things, like give yourself some time to meditate, because we really are getting downloads and being connected. And there's going to be a lot more perception changes and a lot of changes on this planet. Like they're happening regardless of if you know about them or you don't. They are happening in your life. It would probably be better if you know about them, because then they don't surprise you as much. But there's lots of ways to make them easier for you. And all the ascension symptoms, you know, there's a lot of them. I'm not saying don't get checked by a doctor, but look them up.
Right.
And you'll see, like, there's a lot of things that you're experiencing that, honestly, you're like, oh, my God, like, I have that, I have that, I have that. And they're all ascension symptoms. And it's not like we don't get checked by a doctor, but they can't figure out what they are. So, and I know what they are, so I don't really have them checked anymore. Because I already know. But my point being is that there's so many things you can do. And take out other people's energy. We are getting so much more telepathic and empathic. You have no idea how much is not yours. I talk to people all day, have full conversations with them. They're not here, but they have the conversation with me. People have them with me all day.
Right.
I'm like, yeah. And we are having them really. We might be not having them in this third dimension, but we're having them in a dimension that's a little bit higher. So we know that we've already had them. It's very interesting. So there's so many things going on and changing. Go easy on yourself. And this not being motivated, after this eclipse, we may be a little bit more motivated, like we're getting into the season. Like we were just in Cancer season, which is where my birthday is in those months, which is a lot of emotion that comes up.
Right.
You know, Cancers are very emotional, and that's why I'm an empath. That's why, you know, and that they're, you know, one of the most psychic ones of the zodiac, but they're also the emotional. That's why empathic is not you know, unheard of for that. That's very common. But when you think about that, now we're going into Leo season, which is where, okay, through all the emotion, now the sun starts shining. Like Leo has a sun, so it's like, okay, now we have this strength from all purging all this emotion.
Too. I didn't even know that, and with you just saying that, I can feel that.
Right. So it's like, okay, so we're going to take everything that we're learning and letting go of, and then use that to try to do something else with. You know, so let yourself go easy, but there's a motivation that may start to come back in, even though we haven't been. But if you aren't yet, go easy on yourself. Get some rest. Make sure you're resting. If you could see all the stuff that was happening, and as the matrix falls apart a little bit more, you might be able to see it, then you'd be like, holy shit, I didn't know I was doing all that while I'm trying to do, I don't know, a 9 to 5 and you know, get groceries and keep my house and, you know, my car and all the other damn shit that we have to do. You would kind of be like, holy God, I really was extra. No wonder why. And time is changing as we know it, and it's going to change even more.
Huge, yeah.
And thank God, I want it to change where it's goes to the place where they always show it's going to go, where we'll have enough time to do everything and then be able to have time for chill.
Yeah, I've seen glimpses of that, like maybe twice in the past since this year started. That's happened for me.
Right, and there you'll get moments like that, and you could see it. And you're
like little
tiny.
Okay,
can that continue? Because I like that. Where it'll just be, you could have moments where you're like, you could have like a whole afternoon like that, where you're like, wow.
Yeah, where
I got all that stuff, and then I got time for chill time, too. But that's going to be more of like as time as we know it changes. It's been changing, but that's going to be more. We'll get more of that. And these are all the like wonderful things we have to look forward to. It's not, you know, like we're going through this apocalyptic thing, and then, you know, there's a reason we're trying to do something better and go to a higher dimension and shift to unconditional love. Evolving is something that helps you to understand more, see more, and not be stuck in these old programs that are keeping us from being separate, because we've never been separate. We come down here to learn that we're not separate. You know, it's part of the learning. But I know that you have a client coming up, and I have to go run. So we just wanted to do a quick, you know, because you'll be back next week or at some point, so we'll do another one. But we just wanted to do a podcast on the eclipse and all the energies. Please go easy on yourself. Remember, Instagram, Mylana _
MIYLANA _
inspired. on Instagram, and this is on share, like, subscribe on iTunes and SoundCloud. I think we're on Facebook too. Yep, this podcast, This Is Only a Dream, is on Facebook too. As many people as we can reach would be helpful, because everyone needs to know what's going on in ways, and listen to the other podcasts too, because you'll really, like, all of them go together and they lead off of each other.
Yep.
And like we said, if you ever have any questions or stuff that you want to talk about, let us know.
Get up in our DMs.
And what do we say, Hal?
Toodles.
Everyone have a wonderful eclipse. Go easy on yourself and try to chill. Let yourself download, meditate, and we'll talk to you soon. Toodles.
Toodles.